On March 5th, 1982, the Soviet Union's Venera 14 lander successfully touched down on the surface of our hellish neighbour, Venus. In total, it worked for just 57 minutes before succumbing to the harsh environment. But in that short time, it managed to capture a colour panoramic photo of its scorched surroundings. More than 4 decades later, and this photo is still one of the best we have from the surface of Venus. Venera was a series of space probes launched by the Soviet Union in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s on a mission to study the planet's bizarre environment. But it also was a program aimed at returning the first ever close-up photos from the surface of another planet. Over the course of the program, 13 probes successfully reached Venus and transmitted data about our neighbour. 8 landed successfully on the surface, and 4 managed to capture incredible photographs. The reason it is so difficult to land on Venus is that below that thick toxic cloud cover that is perpetually shrouding the planet, the surface experiences extreme temperatures and pressures. In fact, Venus is the hottest planet in the solar system, even though Mercury is closer to the Sun. Here the temperatures reach about 475 degrees Celsius, which is about 900 degrees Fahrenheit. To put that into some kind of perspective, that's more than 7 times hotter than the highest ever recorded air temperature on Earth, hot enough to melt lead. But that's just the temperature. At the surface of Venus, all that thick cloud creates a crushing air pressure more than 90 times that of Earth's. Here the atmosphere would be similar to the pressures found more than 914 meters or 3,000 feet below the ocean. Along with the extreme heat, this environment would easily destroy most spacecraft attempting to explore Venus's horrifying landscape. However, the Venera landers were designed to withstand these intense conditions for just about long enough to collect data and send us the first ever glimpse of the Venusian surface. But how exactly do you take a photograph in such a hellish environment? What was clear, based on previous data, is that if the camera were placed outside of the protective shell, then the enormous pressure and temperature would destroy it. Therefore, engineers placed a telephoto meter inside the lander. Through a special porthole, light from the surface bounced through a periscope, which then directed it to the camera that was protected inside. Venera 9, which launched on June 8, 1975, was the first mission to attempt to take photos of the Venusian surface using this technology. Though the probe successfully landed, unfortunately, only one of the lens caps of the 2 cameras separated. What was planned as a 360-degree panoramic photo around the lander became a 180-degree photograph. But we did get our first ever look at this scorched landscape. The white object at the bottom of the photo is part of the lander, and the distortion is caused by the old Venera imaging system. Angular and partly weathered rocks can be seen dominating the landscape, many partly buried in soil, and the mysterious horizon is visible in the upper left and right corners. Following Venera 9's footsteps, Venera 10 reached the surface on October 25, 1975. Again, unfortunately, only one of the lens caps separated properly, returning a 180-degree panoramic photo before going silent after about 65 minutes or so. The lighting was similar to that on Earth on an overcast summer day during the photograph, according to scientists. The objects at the bottom are parts of the spacecraft, and the ground seems to be covered in flat slabs of rock, similar to volcanic areas found here on Earth. In December 1978, Venera 11 and Venera 12 landed on Venus, collecting even more data for over an hour, but also attempting to capture the first ever colour images. Unfortunately, in both cases, the lens cap issue struck again. On these 2 missions, both lens caps on the cameras failed to separate. So while the landers returned valuable data, neither was able to take any photographs. After this disappointing lens cap malfunction, engineers made a series of changes to the design of Venera 13 and Venera 14, which as it stands are the only probes that have ever transmitted colour photos of the shrouded Venusian landscape. Venera 13 landed on Venus on March 1st, 1982. Once on the surface, the lens caps successfully ejected and the cameras began taking a panoramic photo around the lander. The probe survived for 127 minutes before going silent, which was enough time to capture in colour what appears to be a bizarre landscape dominated by flat, dark, layered rocks and fine grain-like soil material filling the gaps. The lens cap can be seen sitting in front of the lander, and distant rolling ridges are visible in the corner of the photos. Just 4 days later, on March 5th, 1982, Venera 14 successfully landed in a different region of Venus, and like its twin, the lens cap also successfully ejected, allowing us to see even more of this hellish terrain. This time, however, the ground seems far more fractured, with very little of the grain-like soil material seen in 13's images. Once again, you can see the ejected lens cap, and in the distance, the hazy horizon. Each of these incredible photos gave us a tiny glimpse into a world covered in cloud so thick that its surface was a mystery up until the first lander arrived. They revealed to us a yellow sky above a cracked, desolate landscape that is both alien and familiar. They found that Venus is so harsh that no Earth creature could ever survive there. Yet this world may have once been Earth-like before it experienced catastrophic climate change. It has been decades since we got a fresh look at what's below the clouds of our scorched neighbour. But that might be about to change, because this scalding hot vision of hell is about to get a few more visitors. One of the most exciting is NASA's Da Vinci Plus mission, which will study the origin, evolution, and present state of Venus from near the top of the clouds all the way to the ground. The mission has a planned launch date sometime in 2029, so we will have to wait a bit longer yet. But during a flyby, the Da Vinci spacecraft will release a descent probe that will be carrying a camera, allowing us to see Venus like never before. On its hour-long descent, the probe will take thousands of measurements and capture close-up images of the surface as soon as it emerges from below the thick clouds. The probe is not required to survive the landing, however, but if it does, it could provide up to an additional 17 minutes of invaluable science. Unfortunately, the Da Vinci Plus descent probe does not have a panoramic camera, meaning that the old photos from the Venera landers may still be the best close-ups we have of our hellish neighbour for many years yet. A testament to the brilliant engineering that went into these groundbreaking probes all those years ago.